Hello everyone and welcome to this Broncolor webinar. This time not from the Broncolor studios, but we are at Studio Numéris with Claude Bossel near Lausanne. May I let you introduce yourself, please, quickly?
Yes, with pleasure. Hello everybody from the world. I'm Claude Bossel. I'm a commercial photographer based in the French part of Switzerland, and I'm specialized in watch photography. My main area of work is high-end watches and jewelry. And I have the pleasure today to share this webinar with Urs.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much for having us, Claude. Well, we came here a couple of hours ago already, and you showed me your fridge, including some 4x5-inch,
Yes.
What was it, Kodak T-Max, I guess, from 1998.
Yes.
Well, I wrote down 1988.
Yes.
So this makes you a photographer who's in the business for quite some time. How did you start? When did you start with your photography career?
All right. So I started very early. In fact, I was crazy about photography since the age of 5, particularly about this camera that was built by Polaroid in 1965. My father owned a camera like that, and I was a sleepwalker. So the funny story is I woke up every night at the same times, and I would go to a cupboard, pick this camera, and as I was sleeping, I would walk around the dining room and take pictures, which is really amazing, you know. And when I grew up and I finished my school, I had two passions, fishing and photography, but my mom said, there is no future for this type of job. If you go to photography, you know, I don't see a good avenue for you. And if you go to the fishing side, you will always smell fish. You will not find a girl that will stay very long with you. So when I was 16, I decided to become a precision mechanic. And with my first money that I spared, when I was 18, I bought my first camera, the Canon A1. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started to work for my pleasure as an amateur. For several years, I was a member of a photo club. I learned to process black and white films and processing. And I worked in the army after my apprenticeship as an aviation mechanic. I did another school as a maintenance officer for the aviation. But when I was 29 years old, I decided to quit everything. And I went on a bike tour for 1 year around the world. And I stopped in Hawaii to work as volunteer for several weeks. And in this university, there was a department of photography, and I just loved to meet the student there and the teacher. And I said to myself, I will do anything I can to come back to this university to learn photography. So 1 year after, of course, in between, I had to go back to Switzerland to earn some money. And 1 year after I was accepted as a student, I was 29, 30 years old. I went back on the bench school, and the school was a fantastic experience, but it was mostly oriented to black and white. We learned also to process slides, but we worked mainly with small frame camera, and it was oriented to people. So I had very little experience about commercial photography, the domain I was very interested in. So after the school, I had the opportunity to move to Holland, and I worked for several months in a big studio called Hodenbach & Partner. It was a 5-studio setup where we can come in with trucks, and this studio was fully equipped with the top equipment. It was Broncolor studio, and I really loved to work there. The thing is, I worked for free there for 8 months. So I had to pay my films, my Polaroids, my food. And that was a tough experience, but that's where I learned, I would say, the basic about commercial photography, about technical cameras and flash photography. After this period, I came back to Switzerland. I worked again as a mechanic part-time, and I started my first studio. I oriented my goals, my domain in the industrial, because that was my background. I didn't have much experience in fashion, so I started with industrial photography, mainly shooting machine tools, whatever equipment that was related to the technical side. After, in around 2005, I was contacted by a very famous watchmaker that was not so happy with a photographer, and they asked me, are you able to shoot watch? And it was the transition at that time between analogic photography and digital photography. So I took the risk to rent a digital back, a Phase 1 H25, to shoot my first watch. The client was very happy, and then I carry on my experience in the watch industry. And because of my ability to understand the mechanic and the precision, I found, I would say, my vocation among the photography different domains. So now, since 30 years, I work as a commercial photographer, and I have mainly worked during the last 20 years as a watch photographer. I don't only shoot watch, but that's my main activity.
We'll talk about different fields of photography later on. I already saw before or felt before that you are still very passionate about photography, even after so many years of shooting. You just spoke about the studio in Holland where you were made an apprenticeship, or how you want to call this, and it was a big studio with 5 setups. I was counting here quickly, you have at least 4 setups as well, so you're you have a big studio running as well yourself now.
Yeah.
Do you run all this by yourself, or do you have constantly an assistant helping you maintaining the set, maintaining the equipment and so on, or is it more a Claude one-man show?
Most of the time it's Claude's one-man show.
Okay.
I like to work alone, but in big shooting I had in the past where it involved several models, for example, then I have to work with assistants because it's too much to deal with. I work with stylists also, professional stylists or makeup artists. But most of the time when I work for the watch industry, I work alone.
Okay, good. So just taking care of good music and
yes,
moving lights patiently, hours and hours and hours.
I have to work sometimes with partners, with very highly specialized retoucher in the industry, because sometimes there is too much work that comes. And for some clients, I do the shooting, I do the montage, the retouching, and then I would say I deliver my final image that is ready like 95%. And I work with very specialized team that will convert my file. Of course, I work always in RGB, and they would make sure that the colors, because at the end it's always printed. Of course, some pictures stay in RGB because they are used on the web, on social media. But most of the time I have to collaborate with very highly specialized to make sure that the gold of a certain type of watch is really the right saturation, the right tint at the end on the printing process.
Okay. Do you have these external specialists like a retoucher? Do you even have them in the studio, or they are working on the other side
most
of the
of the
internet?
time they work outside, and I have a close collaboration.
Exactly, yeah.
Sometimes they come to my studio because they have to see the product.
Exactly, yeah, that's why I ask.
So that's always the final image is really prepared by the retouching company because they will make proof, and this proof has to go to the clients, and the clients will make the final approval before the printing process.
Okay. You mentioned this, the final image. When you go to the studio with a new watch, with a new job you have to do you have the final image ready in your head? And who tells you how this picture has to look like? Is this a very strict briefing from the client? Do you have there a lot of creativity you can live in?
Unfortunately, there is less and less space for the creative process. Usually I worked with very, very precise, specific briefing that I have to respect. So it's not that I can put my watch here and decide of the angle and things like that. Most of the time you have to respect the shape of the strap So it's highly precision work, you know, and you cannot do whatever you like. Even about the lighting, there is a decision in the marketing department. We want the lighting coming from this. We want this type of gradation. And you have to be very strict about the final work. And the process is, usually I receive a briefing with the exact position of the watch that the clients want. Then I will make general lighting to find the position. Then I send the image to the client for the approval of the position of the watch. And then I start the real work with the lighting.
Okay.
And then the final image go back to the clients for the final approval before it goes to the final retoucher.
Okay. So we heard many times the word client. I think your cooperation with the client in this specific field of jewelry and watch photography is a different world than from most other advertising photography. Are you allowed to give us an overview about how you deal with clients? What are the specialities in your field?
Okay, there are some very specific restrictions that I cannot talk about, because when you work in this high-end watch or jewelry clients, you must be first extremely serious person, and everything is very confidential, because the client, when they produce a new collection, before there is an official public launch, it's absolutely confidential. So that's the reason you have to accept some very close, how do you say that, contract. You have to sign contract about security, about information. And this is really not an easy thing to reach this kind of clients. You cannot just go there and knock on the door, I show you I'm a good photographer and show you a picture. It's a very, very long process before these high-end clients will have confidence in you and give you the opportunity to shoot their collection.
Okay, cool. But congratulations that you're there. You have
Yeah,
shown
thank you.
me some of your work, really the highest possible clients one could think of. So congratulations for the achievements.
Thank you.
So let's change to what you can talk more freely about. So it's not only, I mentioned this before, you're still very passionate about photography. You showed us, you have a printing station up there.
Yeah.
You print your jobs, but you print as well your own photography. And you told me that when you have no job in the studio, you keep on shooting. Even after many, many years, you're still burning for photography. What else do you shoot? What is your heart burning for?
Absolutely. I'm totally passionate, even after 30 years, after having shooting thousands of watches and different products. Every day I'm very happy to get up and play with my tools. And when I have free time or I have stop time, because this happens, you know, sometimes a watch should arrive this day, it doesn't arrive, then what do? You know, you have to take this time to produce something, to improve your knowledge. So I take every single opportunity to shoot, either in my studio, either outside. Even if I go traveling around the world, I always have a camera with me.
Okay. And this is not only product photography, obviously. This is, you shoot models, you shoot...
I shoot also architecture. I love to shoot architecture. So sometimes I give myself an assignment. I go to this city specifically because of the architecture, and I will spend 5 days shooting early morning, at night, non-stop. And this gives me lots of pleasure. I do also street photography when I go to the city. And I do also portrait. I shoot models, beauty shots. So I have a wide range of interests, but of course, my favorite area of photography is the product photography.
Still,
yes.
I think this is really something that many photographers can be very jealous of, you know, that even after so many years, you want to have a camera in your fingers and keep on shooting. So that's really cool to hear. We go back to your serious work, you know. Amazing setup here with, I don't know, I didn't count before, but we have a combination of Xeros, Picolight, bare bulbs, box lights, and so on. What we see here, is this something like a standard setup? Do you have a standard setup that works for most of the watches, or is this super, super individual for every single watch you touch?
It is very, very individual. Of course, if you shoot a certain type of watch, then you have to create the same light on every models. So that's the very challenging things, is the consistency, because you work with very first shallow depths of field, and 1 millimeter motion of one light or the watch or the camera change totally the angle of reflection. So I cannot say I have a specific setup. Of course, I use a lot of diffusing materials to create gradation. Because, for example, if you use, let's say, a softbox, the problem you have, even if I use them sometimes in certain situations, what you see in a watch is the reflection of the light. So if you have, for example, wrinkles in your softbox, you will see these wrinkles. And the softbox can create a very shiny, bright light, but you cannot really create gradation with a direct softbox. So I, most of the time, work with different type of diffuser, big one, small one. Over there, I have one that is 3 meters by 4 for big object. And here you don't see maybe the watch, but usually after 2 hours of starting the lighting, you cannot access the watch anymore because you have reflectors, mirrors, all kinds of tools around that are very, very precisely positioned. And what I use the most is bearballs, of course, when you want to create long gradation. Of course, I use a lot of point light. That's why I absolutely love the Pico light system. And also great things with the Pico light, sometimes I have to search the angle. So the Pico light is very practical because you can take it in your hand, look through the viewfinder and move around. And then you see, or sometimes I use the live view system. When I'm on the back, I cannot look through the viewfinder. So I move a lot the light to find the right angle for the position of the watch.
And do you move your lights as long as you have the entire picture in one shot? Let's say, honestly, do you cheat, or is it a one-shot photography, or is it a lot of post-production, like shooting different elements and different lightings? How, as well, the balance between photography work with lighting, moving lightings around, and post-production, how is this balanced?
On every shot, there is a lot of post-production because it is extremely difficult to light up perfectly a watch in one shot. I don't say it's not possible. If you have only one light, you will have to move your one light around, you know, for every angle, for the strap, for the needle, etc. And of course, I cannot do that. That's why on every set, I have a lot of light coming from very precise direction. So usually I will make a shot for the strap because you can have a leather strap, you can have a rubber strap, a shiny brush strap. So it is very, very difficult to have a perfect lighting with one shot. So for example, I will make a specific lighting for the dial because also every dial is different. You don't shoot a black dial the same way you will shoot a mother pearl, for example. So usually most of the time I do multiple lighting. I use also a lot of focus stacking because now that's the tendency. Most of the client, for some creation, they want a shallow depth of field, you know, to give a dreamy effect, things like that. But most of the time I have to do multiple shots to have the sharpness, the total depth of field on the watch. So for example, I would light up a strap, let's say a rubber strap with a harsh light, you know, to have the nice shape if there is some specific form in the strap. And then, of course, I have to use another light for the shiny part. You cannot light up a shiny part with direct lighting like I do for the rubber or for the leather strap, for example. So there is a lot of work in the post-production. And the difficult thing is during the whole process, where you change your light, you shoot. It takes several hours to do that. You cannot move the camera or the watch. Otherwise, you start all over again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you have to be like a cat walking around with really being very careful with what you do. Because if you have worked 5 hours changing your light, and suddenly you knock your camera, you can start all over again. So this is quite a difficult job. You must be very patient, very precise. But that's a challenge. Every watch or jewelry is a challenge. You cannot really say, I put the light here, I shoot a watch, and I take another one.
Yeah,
if you shoot a man's watch, which is much bigger, for example, in titanium, you will not use the same lighting setup as a woman watch, which is very small and which is with diamonds, So you have to use a lot of different light shaper to get the best result, and also give three-dimensionality, because we, as a photographer, we produce two-dimensional image, but you have to give the sensation that you have the product in front of you. And you always have to use highlights, shadow to create this dimensionality in the product.
Okay. I think that's very demanding. I noticed from my own experience that you shoot, let's say, like the bracelet and the indicators in a different light. But in the end, when you make the composition, it still have to look realistic.
Yes.
So you kind of must have a lot of experience and still a vision of the final shot.
Absolutely.
Is this a composition of these different elements? Is this your job, or do you deliver several files like bracelet, like the different elements of the watch, and you make them? You make somebody, a retoucher, make the composition, or is this your job?
Personally, I really like to make the composition because I like to control and have an overview of the final product. It allows me to see if I have made a mistake.
Yeah.
And for me, it's very important to see the final product before it goes to the clients. So we have two types of situation. Some clients, they want to see the final job. So I will do the montage up to 98%, and then the conversion, final retouching will be made by specialists. Or we have other clients who work with specialist retoucher either outside or inside the business, and then they will ask me, shoot the strap, shoot the needle, shoot the dial, send us the file separately. So I have to be very precise with the name of the file so that the retoucher very easily find where is the needle, where is the strap, where is all the parts, and they will make the final composition with all the different elements.
And then it's hopefully not too much of a surprise for you in the end.
Yes.
But still kind of you give some of the control out of your hands.
Yeah.
You have some gray hair. Where are they coming from? What's the biggest struggle in your work?
They come from the stress. You have to understand that the watch industry is a very, very stressful domain, because you are always under the pressure of time. This is paradoxal because you work with watch. Time is really an illusion, but in the commercial work, you have to respect the deadline, and you have sometimes a huge amount of work to produce in a very short of time. And you are at the beginning of the production. First, there is the watchmaker, of course, the designer, all the construction of the watch, but you are the first because everybody wants this picture before they are published worldly. So usually there are very specific deadline. Before it was the Basel Fair, the main watch and jewelry fair in Basel. Now it's Geneva. So everything is, the deadline is this fair. All the product, all the printing, whatever social media picture must be ready before this fair and the launch of the new product in the world. So there is a lot of pressure with the time.
Okay, so this is some external stress, and now, but once you have the watch, let's say, on time, what's the struggling here? Looking for the right light shaper, moving things, or the steady camera. You mentioned something about cleaning the products.
Yeah, the first thing is the preparation of the watch.
Mm-hmm.
They must be absolutely perfectly clean, and this takes time. Sometimes you receive the watch is super clean, sometimes it's not. So first thing, prepare the watch or the jewelry, clean it absolutely perfectly, look at all the details, and mount the watch on a support. It can be a metallic support, copper, sometimes acrylic. I have all different of materials to create this support. And of course, you have to be very careful because you cannot scratch or damage the product.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I do, we will maybe see that after, I check the product on different light. So I have a soft light, I have a kind of strip light on my watchmaker workshop, and I will move the product. It can be a watch, it can be an electronic, but I do that also with the watch. I will move under different lights, so it gives me already a direction for the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Because just an example, if a watch has a dial in black mother pearl, there is only one usually position of the light that will make the colors and the volume of the mother pearl comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the clients want to see this
Of
colorful
course,
rainbow and things like that. But it happened very often that the briefings tell you the main lighting should come, let's say, at 11 o'clock. But in reality, when you light up at 11 o'clock, your mother pearl is dead.
Okay.
So you have to light up at 5 o'clock to have this colorful coming out of the product. So that's why I spend quite a time looking at my product on soft light, hard light, and then I have already an idea before I put the watch on the set, the direction where I have to light up the things and the type of lighting. Because for some product you need very harsh light, for some you need soft light. So the preparation is already quite a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so we actually start, you said that later on, also quite soon, you cannot touch or move the watch and not the camera. So you really start setting up the product and the angle of the camera, and as a last step, you start working with the lightings.
Yes.
You showed us to us before your workshop, your watch preparing corner. I think it really makes sense that we go there quickly and have a look at this, if you don't mind.
Okay, with pleasure.
Okay, Claude, so this is obviously where every single shot starts, from positioning of the watch, but as well having a first idea about which light might be the best one for this specific product.
Yeah. So here I prepare either watch or jewelry. I spend a lot of time here. I work with these special watchmaker glasses. And first, of course, I will clean the watch, always with gloves. I use special microfiber gloves. I use special product, most of the time alcohol, but I have other type of product that I use. And the preparation is one of the big part of the work. So what I do, I would mount the watch on a very specific frame, I would say, or support. It can be made of copper, so this is all handmade.
By you? You make them?
Yes, I made that. So I will just show you one example. So originally the material is copper in this case, so I don't do that here, I do that at home. So I will heat up with a flame, high temperature, then put that in water to make the copper very smooth. Then I can bend it easily. And then I will weld a special piece here. And this welding is very, very precise because you need to be 100% perpendicular or parallel. Otherwise, your watch will have a very strange shape when you position it.
And these radiuses, you get them from the clients. So this is
Yeah,
decided by the client how round they want to have it or how
absolutely.
deep. Okay.
So every ring is prepared for a specific watch. not only the diameters, but the I don't know how you call that, the roundness of
the radius.
because of course the radius, yes, because of course if you photograph a woman's watch, it will be totally different than the shape of a man's watch. And mechanical watch are very heavy. They are not like a cheap watch, so you must be sure that everything is fixed very well. So that's one way of preparing the watch. Of course, the copper is covered because you don't have, and you should not, of course, scratch the watch. So I use special plastic rubber that we use in the watch industry to protect the watch. So first thing first, I fix the watch and I measure everything. It's not just I put the watch and I look at it like that. No, everything is made and positioned with very high precision. So I use precision tools specifically made. You know, they are not in metal, otherwise you would, of course, scratch the watch. And I spend a lot of time to position the watch perfectly on this ring, or sometimes depending on the position and the aperture of the strap, I would use other materials, for example, acrylic piece like that I will also shape according to the briefing I receive. Or I use like transparent, very thin, I would say that ring of acrylic. So that's what I use most of the time. And then, of course, once the watch is mounted and clean, I will take the time to observe the watch under different light. So this is a kind of strip light, and with this special glass, I will look at the reflection on the needles, on the, how do we say, the design of the dial, because this is the most important things on a watch is always the dial. So by moving the watch like this, and this is more a soft light, this is also a soft light, but bigger than this one, of course. This is like a kind of strip light. And this one is a very harsh, I don't know if you can see it here, yeah. So I would position the light specifically, so this is a very direct light, and I do the same thing. I observe. This very harsh light also allow you to see any particles, any dirt or whatever on the watch. Usually on soft light you don't see it, but on this one you see absolutely every particle. So this will give me already an idea about the direction of the light before I go on the set. And once I have do this kind of work, observing work, then of course I use high pressure air to clean the watch, you know, to take away always all piece of dust. And of course then I move to the set, and before I start the shooting, when I put the light all around, of course there is dust because you cannot avoid that. But before I start the shoot, you know, a few seconds before I start, I blow up high pressure air. Of course, you must be very careful not to touch the watch, not to move anything. And then it will avoid to have dust, because of course, every piece of dust will increase your post-production work. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit shortly the process about the preparation.
Just to have an idea, is this 1 hour, 2 hours before you actually go on set?
Well, it really depends on the watch, of course. For example, if you shoot piece of collection, you know, unique piece, antiques, jewelry, and it has been wear, and sometimes this jewelry will be photographs for auction or things like that, then I have a special appliance where I put the jewelry or the watch inside ultrasonic system that vibrate very high frequency. I put some hot water and a droplet of soap, and this for maybe half an hour, it will move at very high speed the piece that is inside, and all the particle will go away. Then this is another job you have to do. So Sometimes you will take maybe half an hour to prepare the watch. Sometimes it takes 1 hour. For example, because you have to respect the number of link on the top of the watch and at the bottom. It's not, oh, I put it, that looks nice. No, no, no. The watchmaker wants to see, for example, that's just an example, 2 links on the top, 5 links on the bottom. That's why you have to measure that to make sure that when you go on the set, your watch is exactly at this perfect position. And sometimes you don't succeed the first time. You have to take the watch back from the system, the installation, come back here, move your watch, remeasure, and move it half a millimeters, go back. So sometimes it can be quite a challenge with your patients.
This just brings me to a completely other question. I mean, the perspective can change as well. Let's say the number of elements you see. Is that the focal length? Is this as well something that's even decided by the client, or is this still your decision as a photographer? Is it always the same?
I would say that when you do a production of a catalog, every watch, year after year, must have the same position. I'm speaking about half degree, because when you put the watch next to each other, if you put one watch like this, aesthetically speaking, it's really not nice. So you must be able to reproduce. For example, you shoot a collection of one type of watch. Then the clients 1 year or 2 years later make a new model of the same type of watch. You must be able to find exactly the same position and exactly the same type of light. And that's a real challenge, to have consistency on the lighting. So the question was about the decision, right? About so that's the client.
Okay.
You have really it's not always the case, but you have very specific, precise gabarit. Your watch must be 100% at the right angle, at the right distance. And of course, the focal length will influence the view of your watch. So this is defined at the beginning when you produce, for example, I'm speaking about catalog now, where you must be very precise year after year. Then we will make a lot of tests to find the right distance and the right angle, because when you change the angle of the watch, and then you have to respect that. So you cannot say, okay, today I shoot with a 120, tomorrow 100, and you have to respect the distance for every shot.
Okay, crazy. Okay, cool, very interesting. All right, so we are back with the setup. Picolight, you combine it with Xeros's Unilight up there with no light shaper. So let's bare bulb, which is some of the most uncontrolled light in a way.
Yeah.
In combination with the most controlled lights like Picolight, my personal favorite babies as well. What is your favorite baby in light shaping wise? Is there one?
I must say that I absolutely love the Picolight system. I don't have a preference. I love all the accessories. I would say most of the time, my preferred light among the Picolight system is the little accessory here with this Fresnel that you can focus and modify with high precision. Of course, I love also the projection attachment when I need to light a very, very small part, or to create also some etheric light on the background. I love this too. And of course, like I explained before, this light for me is very fantastic because you can move around with high precision, and when you search the angle, it's a very heavy, not heavy, light light that you can easily put in your hand and move around to find the right angle. And of course, I like, as a precision mechanic, I love the quality of the product because I'm very sensitive to that. I must say I have visited the Broncolor company, and when you see the quality of work that is made there, you really understand the value of this product. What I love and what is very important for me is the quality of the light, about the consistency of the light temperature, because I have to adjust all the time with high precision. So I appreciate that you can adjust by 1/10. This is very, very important, especially for the watches. Also, what I love now, as I said, I don't only shoot product. I also love to make beauty shots and fashion shots and portraits, creative portraits. So for this, most of the time, that's my really favorite, is the Para 133. I love the quality of the light. I love how it is made also, the mechanical system that you can focus in. So I would say for portraits, that's absolutely my favorite light, and maybe among the Pico light system, I really like this little Fresnel. That's a beautiful toy to light, very precise, and it creates a very sparkling, I would say, light that I really appreciate.
But it is a portrait tool or a fashion tool for you, so it's not. It doesn't find any application into watches or jewelry photography. The Para.
Maybe you can use it. I don't, because
don't.
it's too big in comparison with the product. You can imagine a watch is very, very tiny.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a bit cumbersome to move around. I don't say you cannot use it, but of course for me and my type of work, the Pico light system is really the more appropriate tools I can use. Yeah.
I can certainly sign this. Yes. So thank you very much for these wonderful insights into watches photography. We felt that you have a lot of experience. Any recommendation for our young colleagues that would like to go into this direction of jewelry or watches photography?
So I think the first thing I would say to a young photographer is to learn non-stop. Be passionate every day. Buy books, invest in yourself, in learning, go to workshop, even if it is not in the area. Personally, during my 30 years, I have been to many, many workshops with car photographers, with portrait photographer, with fashion, because you will always learn something, and it will give motivation also to meet experienced photographer and other photographers from the world. So my first advice is non-stop learning, keep going. And of course, I spend a lot of time watching magazine to follow a bit the trend in the watch industry, of course. But I spend also time on websites like Pinterest, where there are wonderful work presented on also Behance, for example. And there is one specific website that is dedicated to photography, and I would really recommend you to spend some time and maybe put your picture there. It is called One Island, and there are around 7,000 photographers from all over the world, very high level. They are amateur, professional, but even among the amateur, it's absolutely unbelievable, the creativity. So almost every week I spend a bit of time to be inspired, because the quality, you can post image and every image is evaluated by other photographers, 5 professionals, and sometimes you post an image and you say it will be accepted, and sometimes it's not. So it's a great thing, because it's not just I put my picture and I put my best picture there. 5 photographers will check your job and decide this is top or this is rejected.
Okay. And
you will see absolutely amazing photographer, and it's a good feedback, because sometimes you think, wow, my picture is great. You put it there, it's rejected.
They see this differently. Yeah.
And if you are rejected, that's part of the game, if you maybe don't agree. But take the time to go on this website or other professional website and be inspired. I have been inspired by the work of Urs since many years. I love his work. I love his webinar, and I can only recommend you to go on the Broncolor. And I'm not sponsored by Broncolor, just to know that. but I love the way they teach, the way O's teach on this website. You can learn a lot of things.
Good. I think this was it. This was very interesting. Thank you very
My
much
pleasure.
for this very open talk. You guys, thank you very much for your patience, for listening to us, and thank you very much, Claude, for your great talk. It was super interesting.
Thank you, Urs.
Thank you, Claude.
All the best, and it was a pleasure to be with you.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.